Yet another of Brad Pitt's children is trying to remove the name Pitt. And now it's getting so intense, one of them's going to be explaining why in court. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. This story is getting wild. So glad to have Dean Kantaras back. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
Great. I need some divorce lawyer experts here to help us break down these two big stories. We've talked a lot about this with Chris. He was unavailable, guys. So happy to have Dean here as well. But Dean, I know you haven't followed this case as much, but the channel has been very invested in this Angelina Jolie Brad Pitt story for a while. It does seem like Angelina has been having a tough time getting over this divorce, going after vineyards, everything else. But this is the first time now we're really seeing the kids step up and actually sort of back it up. There's been a lot of talk about parent alienation and stuff. A lot of Brad Pitt supporters saying it seems Angelina Jolie has been doing sort of a job keeping the kids away from him. I want to get your thoughts, but before we do, let me just recap so the audience is aware. Zahara has now filed to drop the Pitt last name as well. This is days after brother Maddox had done the same. Documents obtained by People show the 21-year-old filed a petition for a change of name in the Superior Court of California. People reached out for reps, no comment. Zahara's filing dates back to April, comes days after her brother Maddox Jolie also filed to remove his father's last name following the parents' split back in 2016 after 2 years of marriage and 10 years as a couple. The divorce was finalized. It took forever, but December 2024. What the comments here, it's sad to see someone repeatedly publicize their successful alienation of their children from the other parents as a close source to Pitt. Zahara hinted at a possible name change on more than one occasion, as she recently went to college graduation and he wasn't there. And so her name was listed as Zahara Marley Jolie-Pitt. However, it was read aloud as Zahara Marley. So we're seeing this. She's not the only one. Maddox is now another one who's set to explain why he wants his dad's name removed. Before we get to this court hearing and how that seems damning, I guess I just want to sort of get your initial thoughts on this. And so what actually happens at these, when you want to change your name and you're a big celebrity, how do you what do you have to do, I guess, first of all? And if you are a celebrity father, should we take this as a bad sign that Brad Pitt didn't do a good job? I mean, what are your initial thoughts when you see this story?
Well, there's a bunch, right? First, the law, which requires a hearing in Florida and it appears in California before they can enter the final judgment. They have to take jurisdictional testimony, and then more particularly, they have to address the issues that in allowing, in Florida at least, they have to make sure that the person is attesting that they're not trying to avoid a debt. They're not trying to avoid some sort of litigation that's pending or to dupe somebody and change their name. Their civil rights haven't been suspended, because if they have been, then the court needs to look and see what was the crime, what was the reason they were suspended, so they can understand the purpose behind the name change, right? So
Right.
they have to attest to these things in court, and that's why it's required for court. It's not any particular reason that it's the Pitts that are doing this, or the Jolie-Pitts, or the Jolies. It's just that it's a requirement in most states that a hearing be had and the person attest under oath, the adult, be able to attest under oath to the name change.
How likely is it that, this is going to be revealing hearing where he badmouths Brad Pitt? Does he have to go there, or could he just have a boring reason and the judge accepts the boring reason? Like, what are the odds of him choosing to air some dirty laundry at that hearing, in your opinion?
Well, I would suggest that if he does air dirty laundry when he doesn't have to, right? That maybe it's more of an argument that maybe the mother has alienated the kids. Whereas if they don't, maybe it's estrangement and they're upset that the father, distanced himself from them. And so they're just frustrated and upset that he maybe felt that they took sides in the divorce. And so he's not communicating with them and he cut them off. Like you said, he didn't show up at the graduation for one of the children. Those types of things resonate with children. They don't forget them.
I want to talk about the alienation versus did Brad Pitt make an effort, but just hitting that again. So you are confirming this Maddox hearing, he doesn't have to air the dirty laundry. There is a boring sort of easy way he could give the judge to avoid that, correct?
Certainly, yeah. He can answer in a innocuous manner and still get through the hearing and get the final judgment changing his name.
Right. So just to echo, you agree if he chooses to air that dirty laundry, which we don't know, if he does, that will be a lot more telling regarding the story of whether he feels the need to defend his mom or call it his dad. All that will be determined. But I hate reporting on these stories, especially when the kids get involved. But now they're adults, so it's fair game. But it's just sad when all this goes down. So bringing that back, obviously, there's a lot of backstory with these guys, the kids and Angelina and Pitt. And there is a lot of conversation, including Pitt's rep saying that this is parent alienation. And from my own reporting, it does feel like she has done a lot. This was one instance on a plane years ago, questioning whether Brad, I guess I got to be careful of the terminology, but used his hands improperly, which is never okay. But from everything we've seen, Pitt has seemingly taken accountability, responsibility, went through the court systems, had it all checked out. And all these years later, it's still that one issue is what they keep speaking about. You had an interesting response. You say, well, yeah, it could be the alienation, but you also suggested it's also Pitt's fault in a way because he could have pushed himself to be a father and be there in their lives, correct? No matter how much Angelina didn't want him there.
Well, it appears that he's physically and emotionally separated himself from the children, right? So they're going to react. And I know that initially they sided with their mom. It appears from the news that they did. Maybe it bothered him and he reacted in a manner which allowed them to, you know, severely reduce the communication between them. And the children decided they were going to, stick with their mom, who they are with most, right? The person they're with most. They're certainly not going to say anything negative about that person.
Now that they're adults, does it even kind of matter anymore? Can he still sort of claim alienation in the court of law or use any of that? Does it carry any weight anymore?
So many times, alienation kind of ceases. The parent that's trying to alienate maybe stops around the time the child emancipates because now the child's going to have some freedom to make their own decisions, right? And it may be more not the emancipation, but the actual moving out, where they're not dependent on that parent. I doubt in this instance that they feel that supporting their father, who they are not with most of the time, hardly communicating with at all, that they're going to be saying anything that's going to be offensive to their mom, right? Their mom is going to be their mother, Miss Angelina Jolie, is going to be there. They know the mom's there. They're counting on her to support them going forward. They need to succeed as well. And it's a lot easier to succeed if you have a parent like Angelina who can support them in whatever endeavors they choose. Same thing that Brad could do, but Brad has been kind of taking himself out of the picture and has been removed by the mom as well.
Yeah, and that's the most interesting part of this because I appreciate you sort of offering the other side because there's two sides of this, and it's even harder when Angelina is accusing Brad of violence against the children, that makes this a lot more intense, right? And then if she's constantly reminding the kids, or if there was a scary incident, it makes it a lot harder for Brad to just be like, no, give me the kids, right? So if Brad Pitt did make that mistake, or any father does at that point, and wants to still be there and demand the time with the kids, but the wife is also a powerful person saying, no, you already crossed the line. I'm going to do everything I can. Like, where does that go? What does a father do if he's, to order to protect himself, or does he have to respect a wife, especially if it's a Angelina Jolie, in order to even get any time with the kids?
Well, let me give you an example of where alienation can occur. So, when children are like toddlers, right, and they fall down and they don't know whether they should be bothered by what occurred. And the parents jump around, no, no, you're good. Oh, and they laugh and they try and get the child to be happy. The child doesn't know what to feel about what just happened, but they decide to laugh and think it's funny and they move on. When they're adults, the emotional trips where they fall, right? She defined it as abuse. And it was one incident on a plane. People make mistakes. The man owned up to it. He dealt with it. He went through the process. It was one incident, right? We're human beings. We make mistakes. If the mom was doing the right thing, she would have not made that an issue to cause the pain that she's probably causing the kids, because the pain to the children is equal, if not more, than it is to the parent that's not around them.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important. It's hard. It's easy to lose that in divorce hearings, right? Because you want your child so bad, you're fighting for it, but you got to remember the kid wants the other person as well, right? You got to separate that and think what's best for the children. And as you look at this from a outsider, do you think when you see these headlines that this is happening with this couple?
Look, I mean, I think it's a combination. To be honest with you, as much as it appears that she's very bitter and she's scorned and she's going to get even with him, a 10-year divorce is definitely somebody's driving it, if not both parties driving it to go that long. The conduct of the part of the children, which they're changing their names, and it's obviously with her support, right? They're waiting until they turn 18 and they're immediately doing it. I mean, we don't know if she's saying, look, you should change your name if you want me to support you, or if she got the first one to do it, then the others have to follow suit, right? Because they want to be just as close to their mom and their mom to be supportive of them just as much as the first child, then the second child, the third, the fourth. I'm certain the fifth and the sixth are going to do the same thing eventually. Now, as minors, she would have to file. She knows that wouldn't go anywhere, and it would be embarrassing for her to be seeking to modify the names of the minors. So she's waiting until they become adults, and she's probably telling them repeatedly before that, listen, when you emancipate, you can change your name and take his name off of it. It's your choice, right? And so they hear that and they act on it because they're with their mom, they're not communicating with their dad.
Yeah, and if he felt like, you know what, she's so unhappy and angry at me, I better just sort of step away, which feels like can happen at these times, then exactly the kids take that the wrong way, and that's where I feel like this whole thing just has turned into a sad mess for the sake of the kids. I mean, you never want the kids to be this involved, so it breaks my heart to see all this happen. And again, I'm not really picking a side on this one, I especially now that the kids are involved, but very fantastic insight, Dean. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you're following him over at Kantaras_law. And we'll keep you updated. We got another story. Nicole Kidman and what's his name? Keith Urban are back. We're going to bring Dean back for that as well because there's more drama there too. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the bell for all alerts and smash that thumbs up as well. What do you think? Which team are you on? Are you just team kids or do you think the kids are being brats? I want to hear all your thoughts down below. Let us know what you think and stay tuned for more.